Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call this session of the Boardroom revision to order and begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Ojibwe, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 41st Nation Treaty 3 territory. My name is Harvey Diamond. I'll be chairing this meeting. With me today are Diane Knight and Ian Mann. The City Assessment Department is represented by Kem Wong, and our administrative assistant is Belhan Rojo. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rules in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision are requested have been described in each application, and we will be limiting discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing must be sworn testimony. Anyone speaking to such matters must be sworn in or affirmed. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties not considered as evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. We make our decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing, and we will issue a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to an application for exemption from taxation, and should a party wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following their swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by any questions the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by any questions. Each side will be given an opportunity to summarize if they wish to do so. Once all the evidence about the application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. Of course, we'll repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. We receive the Board's order by written mail as soon as possible. And please note that all information will form a public record. It will be live streamed, and we will be hearing today items 1 through 6. And Ms. Rojo, you can swear in the parties at this time.
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Kem Wong.
And you affirm the evidence you're about to present at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Henry Dupont.
And you affirm the evidence you're about to present at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to go over the procedure. I know that it's well known to everybody, but just to make sure, and that is insofar as the presentations are concerned. So the assessor presents first, gives their evidence, any questions that the applicant may have can then be asked, and after which the applicant can present their presentation and rebuttal after that. And then the assessor may rebut, and after that, if anybody wishes to provide a summary, they can do so and conclude matters. So if we have that, it is my understanding that Mr. Dupont, your evidence has been filed late. Do you have anything to say about that?
My evidence?
Yes, your primary evidence.
I don't remember, but I've done that a few times in the past. Maybe after, I don't know, a few hours before, etc. I don't know.
Okay. Well, we have to make a decision whether we're going to allow you to present that evidence because it is late. That's not only up to me, it's up to our panel. So we're going to deliberate in camera for a few minutes, and you both in the waiting room. And if we make our decision, we'll let you know what it is.
I would say that my argument is that the assessor was not affected in the negative matter, and it would be up to the assessor to complain that he did not have enough time to review the material because I was late by an hour or two or whatever it was.
Well, that's your position, but actually, Mr. Dupont, it's up to our board to decide, not the assessor, whether we're going to accept your evidence or not.
No, I realize it's your decision, but you should find out from the assessor whether he thinks he was affected in a negative manner by being late.
you know, I could ask him that, but as I said, it's a decision that our board has to make, not the assessor. And so really how Mr. Wong feels it's up to us to decide whether we will allow you to present your primary evidence and use it or not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll go in camera and we'll be back with you in a very few minutes. Okay, thank you. We're all back. Okay, we have made our decision, and our decision is that there is a requirement that all exchanges of evidence must be made by a deadline. And if the deadline is not met, we feel that that evidence is not properly before us. So, Mr. DuPont, we're not going to accept any of your late file briefs. You may present orally this morning, and we'll certainly listen to you, any evidence you want to present orally, but we're not going to refer to your briefs at all.
I would like you to reconsider. I don't know if you had the information. I sent the information at the 4/18 on the day the reports were due. I got a message the next day that the message was not delivered. I resent them the next day.
Yeah, we made our decision, Mr. DuPont. You should have actually made sure that they did go through that day, and you didn't. And it doesn't really matter. We have rules, and those rules have to be adhered to. We're not going to reconsider. We made our decision, and if you wish to take it further, you certainly have other recourse to appeal us, but we're not going to listen to our own arguments. Again, you had an opportunity of indicating your concerns before. We listened to them, and we made our decision.
I realized you did, but I did not have the information. You took me by surprise, and I did find out. I did send a report in by 4/18. I believe you're going too far. I have done this many times. The board has never, ever disallowed the reports because they were late. The only time it's ever considered is when the assessor complains, and the assessor has not complained. So I want to go on record that I disagree extremely with this decision. Thank you.
Okay, and you can, and we have made that decision. So we're ready to proceed then. And the first item on the agenda today is the property at 25 Ivy Bridge Gate. And Mr. Wong, when you're ready, you can proceed with your presentation.
Okay, the subject property is 25 Ivy Bridge Gate. The roll number is 040-072-54685. And the assessed value is 26,814,000. The roll year is 2024. The file number is 23-261. This is a residential apartment block that's 4 stories high. It was built in 2016, and it has 131 suites with 192 outdoor parking stalls. Page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. So it is just off of Regent. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $1,390 to get a potential income of $2,185,000. We use a 2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $2,141,000. And we use the 41% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $1,260,000. Capped at 4.7%, we have an estimated market value of $26,814,000. On page 5 are some rent comparables showing that the rents that we've used are in line with the market. On page 4 is information on how we derived our cap rates. On page 7 are some cap rate sales ranging from 3.6 to 5.74%. The cap rates for 2390 McPhillips at 4.79%, and the cap rate for the sale at 1745 Henderson at 4.28% supports the model's cap rate at 4.7%. On page 9 is the income and expense mailer submitted by the owner. You can see on page 9 their net operating income for 2020 is $1,302,000, and that supports the model's estimated net operating income of $1,260,000. So the actual performance of the property, where their 2020 NOI is $1,302,000, supports the model's NOI of $1,260,000. And the model cap rate is supported by cap rate sales in the market. So I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $26,814,000.
Thank you. Mr. DuPont, any questions?
Yes, I do. I don't dispute your NOI, so we have a cap rate disagreement only. Your cap rate evidence on page 7. This property is built 2016. So what comparables are you using or mainly using for the subject property?
I believe that the cap rate sales at McPhillips and Henderson at 4.79 and 4.28%, it supports the model's 4.7%.
The property on 2390 McPhillips, are you aware? Did you investigate as to whether the rents were below market at the time of sale?
At 1745 Henderson?
To 390 McPhillips.
Okay. We calculated that cap rate using their actual income for the year of the sale and prior.
And so you were aware that the rents were below CMHC? I didn't hear.
No.
Oh.
With regards to how we calculated the cap rate, we took the information that we had, which was available, I guess the year of the sale or the year just prior to the sale, and we stabilized their net operating income to calculate that cap rate.
1745 Henderson, I believe it was not sold through land titles. Would you agree with that?
I think that might be the case, but with regards to there's a lot of share sales that are used for valuation purposes, and so I don't see so I feel it is a valid sale.
So there's no public record of that sale. So what is your source of information for that sale then?
The source of information is information provided by another applicant.
And you don't know what their source is?
No.
This is a private sale. You got the authority of the vendor or the purchaser to use that sale, if it is at the right amount.
With regards, we didn't seek authority, no. I'm not sure if it's required.
And are you also aware that this property involved another property, a vacant lot nearby that they developed into an apartment?
I'm not sure. I mean, if you have information to that fact, then I'd be interested in seeing it.
I asked the board that the board remove the cap rate on 1745 Henderson because it's private sale, but no authority from either the vendor or purchaser. That's all I have on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mann, any questions of the assessor?
Just with respect to the cap rate, and I know that you had the supporting documents at page 7. but this cap rate of 4.7 is below the 20th percentile of the chart that you have on page 6. Can you advise us of any of the reasons or some reasons that this property might be below the 20th percentile or the 20th to 80th percentile range?
I guess I would say that 2390 McPhillips is a newer property and is it's a good, I would say it's a good quality property, and I would say it falls under the category of maybe the best 20th percentile in terms of property. So I don't necessarily, I feel that the 4.79% is accurately reflective of the property.
Okay, sorry, and I wasn't referring to the McPhillips address. I was referring to this address, 25 Ivy Bridge Gate, specifically.
Oh, okay.
What is it about this property that takes it outside the 20th to 80th percentile?
I guess it would be the same for the same reason that McPhillips is. Like the newer properties, I would consider them in the better 20th percentile or in the best 20th percentile for cap rates.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything further.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, any questions?
My question was asked. Thank you.
Yes, and mine too. I think that we're down to a narrow matter of cap rates. So man was first and he got to ask the question. Okay, so Mr. DuPont, you can proceed with your presentation verbally.
So for the subject property, relatively easy. So my report is thrown out. However, I agree with the assessor's NOI, and therefore it's on cap rate only. So for that, I would like to go to our cap rate report.
Okay.
It's a big report. What's that?
We're there. You can proceed.
Oh, okay. I don't want to go through the whole report because you've seen it many times, but I would like to go to just 2 pages. Page 44 is the cap rate calculation on 2390 McPhillips.
Okay, we'll get there. Page 44. Okay.
So the things I have in yellow is that the line 3 for potential rents, I go 1,649,000, and the actual rent in 2019 was 1,445,000. On top, left is shows that it's sold October 2020, almost a year after the 2019. And I use the rents from CMHC. So we'll see on the table on the right, CMHC rents 2019 and 2020 are shown there for 1 and 2 bedrooms, and then all types. And the rents as subject suite mix using CMHC rents would be 1528. That's what I use. The pro forma rent from the sale was 1210 for 1 bedroom, 1375 for 2 bedroom, compared to above 1317, 1557. So the CMHC rents versus pro forma rents, $104 difference for 1 bedroom, 184 for 2 bedroom. And the actual rents that the property paid afterwards or charged afterwards were $200 to $400 higher. That was after reference date, but I found out that it was below market rent when I went to the site to see what the rents they were charging. They were charging much higher rent than what they had purchased. And that's what alerted me. I didn't use those high rents. I used CMHC rents to stay within the reference date, and that calculates a cap rate on that. Page 162. Now I would like to have this report the same for all apartments. at the hearing here today, so I now don't have to go through this. Now, so this is the reconciliation of cap rates between the assessor and the city of Winnipeg. So the first one from that table, McPhillips, we have 5.59, assessor 4.79. And then the last column we have the Altus cap rate for the age group. So it was 5.25. That's what we have for our cap rate study. Then you will see the rest, Beach, Southview, Ward, etc. The Altus cap rate and the city cap rate are similar. And when they are lower, it doesn't matter. It's in line with the Altus cap rate that we have for that particular category. So 3.3 Ward, we both agree at 5.07. 100 Southview, the assessor does not have any cap rates for that property, and so that's built in 2014. And so for subject age or the newer properties, we have the first four comparables, McPhillips, that we would both have. 718 Beach, 5.39. The assessor is 5.04 for that one. 100 Southview, we're 5.59. The assessor does not have that one. And 333 Ward, we both agree at 5.07, so that we're in agreement there. The next one on Langside, we have both the same cap rate, 6.1, 6.1. La Vérendrye is, we're 5.74, the assessor is 5.01, and we use 5.5 for that age group. So that one is, we have a relatively large difference. Balmoral, we have a difference also, but we're both higher than what Altus has for that age group, 5.5. Maryland, the assessor is slightly lower than us, but then it matches what we have for that age group, 5.5. Cordon, we both have 5.73. And St. Mary's, the assessor is slightly lower than us, but matches the cap rate we have for that group. So a lot of our cap rates, we are in agreement. For most ages, the main difference in age that we disagree are the newer properties. We have 4 cap rates. Now for Beach, Southview, and Ward, we have the full financial statements, the full calculations above. If it's entered as evidence, I'm not going to go through it right now. And that would be my submission on the cap rate. I also have a rebuttal to the assessor's cap rate. I'm open for question now, or I can do the rebuttal and be question later on both.
No, we'll do questions now, and then if you wish to rebuttal, which this appears to be somewhat rebuttal in itself, but if you have more, we'll take it as your rebuttal, if that's the way you presented it. So, Mr. Wong, do you have any questions of Mr. Dupont?
No questions.
Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Mr. Mann, do you have any questions?
I do, with respect to what you said for this age rate for Altus, and I think the chart in your cap rate study goes from what, 1999 to, well, the reference date for our purposes. All buildings would have a cap rate according to Altus of 5.25%. Is that correct, Mr. Dupont? Yes,
that's the same age category the assessor uses.
Sure. And that's 5.25% for every building, right?
Past 1999, yes.
Yeah, that doesn't take into account site-specific or even the variations between different buildings. Some buildings are nicer than others, right?
Of course, and a lot of it is recognized in their rent. So that where we're trying to recognize is the risk. Cap rate is based on the risk and return. So a lot of the pluses and minuses of a property is captured in the rent. Now, there is some also, like age is the main determinant for cap rates. So we have the same age grouping as the assessor for cap rates.
Okay, now just on that note, age is the main determination for cap rates, but the formula for cap rate, isn't it a net operating income over sale price?
Yes, that's how it's determined, yes.
Sure, it's not age, it's not net operating income over sale price divided by age or anything like that. The age
No,
is
yeah.
sale price, right?
Yeah, but when we categorize our cap rate, we take the sales of certain age groups, and that's how we determine the cap rate for that age group. So the assessor has a cap rate for a certain age group, and we have a cap rate for a certain age group, and we have a comparables that would fit in those categories.
The age group categorization that you're using to determine all cap rates from, say, for over a 20-year period, that's Altus's calculation, correct? That's the Altus calculating cap rates, correct?
The fact that I chose 1999, or I'm not sure
Well,
what the question
the
is.
fact that 1999 to 2021 or 2023 is 5.25 is an Altus determination. That's not building by building site specific. That's a generalization by Altus. Is that correct?
It's the same categories as the assessor has. It's the same category that we had for 2020, where the assessor agreed to we had a negotiated cap rate on those categories by age. It's the same age category for 2018, 2016. These is the category of age that the assessment department has that we agree to follow.
I think I have my answer. Thank you. I don't have anything further, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so Mr. DuPont and Mr. Mann was, I think, getting at this. Cap rate is basically a phenomenon that an investor uses to determine what kind of return they expect to receive now and possibly in the future. Correct?
Yes, yeah. The future has naturally a lot to do with it, but so it's the present value of the future benefit. So so that's why older properties will have a less of a remaining life, and the quality of income is not as good as a newer property, and that's why we categorize different cap rates for different age groups. Sorry, and I should clarify, like the age group we have on page 5, we do have categories for number of stories also, so that there's a different category for 6 stories plus versus 1 to 5 stories. And there again, that's the same as the assessor category.
Okay, but if you build the same building on Ivy Gate, like this building, and build the same building at the same time on, let's say, Langside, are you suggesting that a person buying that property will look at both of them and accept the same cap rate for both, even though the Ivy Gate area, I would say, is preferable?
Yes, it is. These are a base cap rate, and then we can have a premium on the cap rate if it's on location. So we both, the assessor and Altus, usually apply a premium cap rate for properties in either West End or North End. But no, we recognize that Ivy Bridge is not any better than my 4 comparables that I had for newer properties. The areas that we had were good location for Ward, St. Vital and Beach, and Southview was also Linden Ridge, I believe, so the newer property. So our 4 comparables for that age group are also in very good location.
Okay. And a purchaser might even be prepared to pay a higher or take a lower cap rate if it's a property that they feel has got potential to be converted to condominiums or redevelopment.
That's we had that as a part of our issue for the 2012 cap rate, where we have a major decision from 207 Watson. The assessor at that hearing stated that any property that was bought with a purchase to convert to condo the cap rate should not be considered because they're not buying based on cap rate, they're buying based on resale value. So those particular sales are deemed excluded by Altus and by the assessor. We both agree on that.
I'm sorry, I just prefer if Mr. DuPont not speak on the department's behalf.
At that,
Mr. Wong, Mr. Wong,
yeah.
if you have any direct after I'm finished, you can certainly put that to Mr. DuPont.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And
no,
I am, Mr. Wong, go ahead.
sorry, the assessor agreed to that at the hearing of 207 Watson.
Can I just ask a question?
Go ahead.
What's your NOI?
Oh, it's the same as the assessor. I don't
So
dispute
1260241?
whatever the assessor has.
That's what the assessor had, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wong, do you have any redirect?
Yeah, just sometimes Mr. DuPont sort of makes reference to the department agreeing with him on certain issues, but I prefer it if he not say that because some of the stuff that might be said might be it could be in negotiations, and I'm not sure if it's the best thing for say Mr. DuPont to be kind of speaking on behalf of the department with regards to certain issues.
Okay, Mr. Wong and Mr. DuPont, Mr. Wong is quite correct there. When things are discussed on a matter to try to reach a settlement, another matter, it's without prejudice and should not be brought up after, because all settlement proceedings are without prejudice to both parties, and we are going to disregard your statement in that regard because of that. Okay.
Can I just ask one more question? What value are you asking for?
Oh, that'd be good. So using 1260 241 divided by 0.0525 $24,005,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions, Mr. DuPont, you can provide your rebuttal evidence at this time.
Yes, a rebuttal. So the first page, if you all have that report, we talked about 2390 McPhillips. The property was bought with below market rent. Purchaser ads after purchase indicate rents increased 245 to 395 over the pro forma rents. We have redone the cap rate based on Shimichi rents, which we had in our own cap rate. So we show again the cap rate calculation on page 3, which is the same as what we had in our main report, cap rate report. The other one, such as comparable, 700 St. Mary's was bought with the intention to purchase and was a first-time buyer, and that's shown in the evidence letter from the property manager. Such as comparable 32 Arden. They had laundry income missing for 2018. Yeah, and that's what it is. And then, sorry, I showed the evidence on Shimichi rents, etc., and the ad that we had on Lady George 2390 McPhillips. Now, also further is the decision 207 Watson. To find that, so that's page 36. So that's a decision 207 Watson by the municipal board. That was October 29th, 2018. And I highlight certain sections that it says, myself, Mr. DuPont, states cap rates determined from the existing income stream on any property purchase with intention to renovate or convert to condominium should not be considered. These purchasers do not have the typical motivations. And at that hearing, the assessor agreed that conversion to condominium should not be considered, but for renovations, it should be considered.
Again, Bont, what the assessor agreed to is not relevant. It's what the municipal board decided. So please try to stick to that.
Page 6, the underlines that the board is compelled to accept the evidence put forward by the applicant. Mr. DuPont's cap rate study supports the appellant's position, and they agree with my cap rate for that property, which was part of the disputes that we should disallow properties you bought for conversion to condo and renovations. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wong, any questions?
Yeah. So with regards to, I guess, page 3 and the your workup for the cap rate for 2390 McPhillips. So would you say, like, you used the CMHC market rents to develop your cap rate, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and looking at their income from 2017, 18, and 19, would you consider that fairly stable?
Yes, the increases are relatively moderate. Yeah.
Okay, so the main difference between, I guess, your cap rate calculation and the city's cap rate calculation is that the city used the actual income and expenses versus you using the CMHC's market rents. That's the main difference. Is that correct?
In past hearings, I've seen the assessor's calculations of cap rate, and we basically agree on everything else except market rents.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the difference.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other questions, Mr. Wong?
Yeah. I guess on page 39. I guess when everybody's there.
Give me a minute.
Yep.
Okay.
He further at the highlighted portion, it says he further stated that the cap rates determined from the existing income stream of any property purchased with intention to renovate or convert to condominium should not be considered. These purchases do not have the typical motivations, and cap rate calculations is likely lower as it does not consider the post-renovation income for return of a total investment. It's kind of indicating that renovated properties or properties intended to convert to condominiums are maybe shouldn't be used. But in my experience, when I've seen appraisal reports, I've seen.
Right now you're asking questions, Mr. Wong. So try to phrase it as a question to Mr. DuPont. And
Yes.
right now you're giving your rebuttal to Mr. Wong.
Okay. Have you seen appraisals that do consider the cap rates for that where the property is going to be renovated or converted to condominiums? Does Altus do appraisals like that?
Yeah, our appraisal division does their own appraisals. Yes.
Okay, so they would consider it.
They may.
Okay, that's fine. It's just, it's contrary to what I've seen, so I just wanted to confirm that they may consider it, and so, thank you. That would be all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Mann, do you have any questions?
I do, with respect to this letter from DSA relating to 700 St. Mary's. Does Altus manage 700 St. Mary's?
No, D7 does.
Okay, D7 still manages 700 St. Mary?
I don't know about today, but at the time of the letter they did, and they were familiar with the purchase.
Okay, so they were prepared to share personal information about the purchaser with a non-manager, with Altus. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they were prepared to give me a letter that I could give it to the board.
Okay. Why didn't you just speak with the owner, the purchaser?
Because I had no relationship with the purchaser, and I've known D7 for many years, and I went and asked D7,
Okay.
which is.
But you never spoke to the purchaser about his intentions on 300 or on 700 St. Mary then?
No, I did not.
Okay. And the Manitoba Municipal Board decision that you've referenced refers to significant property being purchased for significant renovations. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe they had something to the effect the word significant.
Right. Painting and carpeting isn't significant renovations. You'd agree with that?
No. Oh, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, any questions?
No, sir.
And I don't have any further questions either. Mr. Wong, do you have any rebuttal or any response to Mr. DuPont's evidence at this point?
No, that's everything for me.
Okay, so I think that therefore completes this matter, and we will review our decision on it when we can. In the meantime, we'll go on with our next item on the agenda, which is the property at 1222 Plessy Road. And Mr. Wong, when you're ready, you can proceed.
Sorry, if you could just give me one.
Certainly, take as much time as you need to get ready.
Okay, the subject property is 1222 Plessis Road. The file number is 23-294. The roll number is 090-070-470-00. The roll year is 2024, and the assessed value is $1,317,000. This is a residential apartment that's 3 stories high. It was built in 1973, and it has 18 suites with 18 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. It's just near Regent Avenue and Plessis Road. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $777 to get a potential income of $167,000. We use a 2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $164,000. And we use the 60% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $64,000. Capped at 4.9%, we have an estimated market value of $1,317,000. On page 5 are some rent comparables showing that the rents the model has applied is supported by the market. On page 6 is a summary of the actual income and expenses experienced by the subject property. Normally, we might look at the 3 years of income and expenses, but their repair and maintenance was a little bit inconsistent. So I look back a little bit further, and yeah, it appears that 2019 and 2020, their expenses were a bit higher than maybe what they normally run at. And you can see that They do include in their expenses in terms of as operating expenses from probably capital expenditure, such as say the roof and plumbing. You can see in the near the bottom of the first chart, there's a building, the roof and plumbing expenses over the period of 2016 to 2020. You can see that the roof, they had a roof expense for 2017, and for the plumbing, it would normally range from about 3,900 to 6,300. With sort of an anomaly year of 2020 at 22,000, which is noticeably higher than the previous years. So to sort of adjust for that, I removed the roof expense, and I removed a large 16,000 of their plumbing expense for 2020 to try to stabilize their operating expenses. So on the small chart on the bottom, to try to stabilize their net operating income, I used their 2020 income of 189,000, and I averaged their expenses from 2016 to 2020 at 115,000 to get a stabilized net operating income of 74,000. This supports the model's estimated net operating income at 64,000. On page 7 is information on how we derived our cap rates, and on page 8 are some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. The remainder of my brief are the income statements submitted by the owner. So when you look at the actual performance of the property and you make some small adjustments for some capital expenditures, their actual performance of the property, their actual NOI supports the model NOI. It's actually about 10,000 higher than the model NOI. And the model cap rate is supported by the market. So I ask that you maintain the assessed value at 1,317,000.
Thank you. Mr. DuPont, any questions?
Your page 6. Now the plumbing, you removed the plumbing costs of 16,000 in 2020. Was there plumbing in other years that were more reasonable?
But yeah, you can see in 16 to 19, it goes from 3,900 to 6,300 to 4,600 and to 4,100. So subtracting the 16,000 kind of puts the 2020 plumbing at about 6,000.
How much was the plumbing you see for that year?
For 2020, it was 22,795.
Page 10, the revenue statements for 2020. Now the last item in the revenue is a realty tax refund, 3354.
Yep.
You've included that in your revenues, 189,000.
Yes.
Would you agree that that should not have been done? That that should not be an income, a recognized income?
The thing is, I believe all the properties received that for. I believe that's the sort of in the process of eliminating the school tax. The school, it's part of, I guess, the elimination of the school tax. They're doing it slowly, and so they're giving people refunds for their school tax in that amount. So I believe that all the properties would be receiving that, and it would make sense to include that.
And that's what you assume. No, didn't they? That is not a refund from an appeal. you're saying it's the multiple property tax refund,
Yes.
but you don't know. And didn't the refund start in 2021, not 2020?
I'm gonna correct myself and say that I am actually not sure, and that 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 refund shouldn't be. I would say, looking at it right now, it shouldn't be included in their income. So you would want to adjust my calculations for that by 3,354.
Now your stabilized NOI that you've done by your particular exercise, 74,530, and then the model is 64,555. Are you asking the board to use the 64,555?
Yes.
Okay, so the cap rates on page 8, your page 8. So I would assume the chairman would allow that the questions that we had on 2290 McPhillips, 1745 Henderson, and rebuttal would still apply for this property also.
Absolutely, Mr. DuPont. We recall what the question you asked, and we certainly can remember that both the questions and the answers that were provided.
Okay, so I'll just ask a question on some 100 St. Mary's. You have a cap rate there, 3.6%, and the rest are 4.77 to over 5.74. Would you believe that that this one sticks out as being much lower than the rest? And is there a special reason why it's so much lower than the rest?
Is lower than what?
Than the rest of the cap rate comparables?
Well, I'm not sure how, I believe that the 4.9 is very reasonable for this type of property.
Do you believe that 3.6 is reasonable for any property sale?
Well, like I said, like when I've looked at the appraisal reports, they do consider properties that are have the opportunity, the upside potential, and the opportunity to increase the income, and so they are willing to pay a lower cap rate for such a property. And so, I mean, it seems like appraisers are using those cap rate sales, so I feel it's fair.
So your defense is what some appraisers are doing, rather than making your own consideration as to whether it's a valid cap rate or not?
Well, I consider the cap rate to be valid because when you look at the estimate, the resulting value estimate, I believe it is representative of the market. And say if you looked at comparable sales, you would see that the 1,317,000 is in line with market sales. So I believe that the 4.9 cap rate would be accurate because it results in an accurate estimate of value.
Your report doesn't show anywhere the definition of market value, but would you agree that part of the definition of market value is that being knowledgeable vendor and purchaser are both typically motivated?
Yeah.
That the words should be typically motivated. So would you agree the intention to renovate is not typical motivation?
I don't think I would agree because a decent amount of the sales that have occurred over the last few years that's been the case. So yeah, I don't know if I would agree with you in that regard.
That's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, any questions?
I do not, thank you.
Mr. Mann, any questions?
Yes, just with respect to the cap rate chart on page 7, Mr. Wong, multifamily is broken into high rise, low rise A, and low rise B. So there's 3 categories of low rise. The city has the same range in the 20th to 80th percentile of 4.8% to 5.6%. why is it divided into low-rise A, and low-rise B? And the second part of the question is, if a division is appropriate, where would you place this
Yeah.
property?
I think the high rise and low rise and low rise A and low rise B, I think that was sort of carried over from previous cycles. But in this particular cycle, we found that you can see that the 20th and 80th percentile are the same for all of them. And so I think we've just sort of carried it over from previous cycles. But for this cycle, they're all the same. The 20th and 80th percentile is all the same.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything further.
I'm also, Mr. Wong, referring to the city's cap rate information on page 7. And I note that this property, you've used a cap rate of 4.9%. And I note that if it's a low-rise B, it doesn't really matter, but if it was at 20%, it would be 4.8.
Yeah.
So are you suggesting that this property is very, very close to one of the 20% best properties in the city of Winnipeg to derive your cap rate?
It's only, I guess, close to the 20th percentile in terms of it being 4.9%. It may not be an indication that this is kind of the top property. It's just that, like I said, some of the apartment buildings that have a decent amount of upside in terms of being able to do renovations and take them out of rent control, those cap rates tend to be lower. And like I've said previously, that is a consideration when I see other appraisal reports, and it's a consideration that appraisers look at when they are doing their valuations. So it may not totally be an indication that it's like within the 20th percentile in terms of best properties, but just in terms of the cap rate number.
Okay, well, looking at it though, and I see that if it was the 20th percentile, it would be a 4.8. And thinking this property might be worse, I'm inclined to think it deserves a higher cap rate. If we were to take adherence to the table.
Sorry, yeah, it could. I mean, it quite honestly, it could deserve a higher cap rate. At the same time, if a potential purchaser sees an upside potential, if the rents are maybe lower than market, they could be willing to apply a lower cap rate to purchase the property. So I think you are correct in saying that the cap rate could be higher, but I think that it can also be correct that the cap rate could be lower for a purchaser that is looking at this property to renovate and take the upside potential.
Okay, thank you. That's my question. Okay, Mr. Pott, you can proceed.
Could I have a redirect from your questions?
You can.
So for the past hearings or properties, have you ever settled using the potential of a property rather than the actual? You're stabilizing at the actual.
Mr. DuPont, let's not talk about settlement. You can ask questions, but we're not talking about settlements here. They're without prejudice. If there's ever settlement.
Okay. Has the assessor ever used the potential from that the purchaser may do for renovations in the future when you do your own appraisals for the municipal board full appraisal? Are you doing that also?
I'm not sure.
It's all questions.
Okay, you can proceed with your evidence then.
I did an income approach. The calculations that I had, I did not use the tax refund as an income. I stabilized the plumbing using what I did is I used the average, excluding the 2 high years of plumbing, 2019, 2020. So I had excluded those high years in plumbing. And I came to a net income of 63,296. So within 1,000 or so of the assessor, so slightly lower than the assessor. So the cap rate is the main issue. And I use 5.5% cap rate. So my value is 1,151,000.
Sorry, 1,501,000 or 1,151,000? 1,510. Okay. So 1,510,000.
No, 1,151,000 and not 510.
1,151,000. Sorry. Okay.
So that's my report on that.
Okay, Mr. Wong, any questions?
Sorry, I was just wondering, like, when you look at their actual income statement for 2020, it says their income is 189,000, but you're calculating 181,000.
Oh, because you're looking at the report that was excluded as evidence. I put the bad debt there. The bad debt is shown on their expense, so I bring it up.
Oh, okay, okay,
So it's bad debt and the tax refund that I exclude.
okay. That would be all my questions.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Mann, any questions?
No, I don't, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Pont, I don't have any questions either, so thank you. We can proceed then with the next matter on the docket today, which is the property at 255 Bell Avenue. And Mr. Wong, when you're ready, you can proceed.
The subject property is 255 Bell. The file number is 23-255. The roll number is 12097807060. The roll year is 2024, and the assessed value is 10,751,000. This is a residential apartment. It's 4 stories high. It was built in 2021, and it has 50 suites with 28 indoor parking stalls and 13 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location, which is located in Osborne Village. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $1,459 to get a potential of $875,000. We used a 3.2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $847,000. And we used a 39% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $516,000. Capped at 4.8%, we have an estimated market value of $10,751,000. On page 5, we have some rent comparables, and that's what we're going to be relying on because we don't have any actual income and expenses for this property because it's so new. But on the top of page 5 are some rent comparables that support the model rent of $1,459. And on the bottom of page 5 are some expense comparables that range from 33 to 42%. I believe these expense comparables support the model's expense ratio of 39%. And on page 6 is information on how we derived our cap rates. And on page 7 are some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. You can see the cap rate for 2390 McPhillips is 4.79%, and the cap rate for 1745 Henderson is 4.28%, and this supports the 4.8% that the model has applied for this property. On page 9 is just some information on the property from their website. So it is they call it a luxury apartment, and this would fall into the higher end of the new constructions. There are basic new constructions, and this one appears to be a little bit nicer than that. On page 10 and 11 is information on their suite features. And on page 11 is information on some of the amenities. I guess such as their balconies, en-suite washer, and underground parking and luxury vinyl plank floors. On page 13 is information on some of the units themselves. It's like it ranges from maybe about 600 square feet to about a little bit over 1,000 square feet. And on page 14 and 15 are some interior pictures of the subject property. So what I've seen in the apartment space is that a lot of the newer apartments, they do charge basically charge pretty high rents, and especially for the newer apartments that are, I guess, more upscale and luxury in nature, they're the ones that are commanding the highest rents. In this case, the model rents are supported by the market, and the expenses are also supported by the market. The model cap rate is supported by the market as well. And so having said that, I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $10,751,000.
Thank you. Mr. DuPont, any questions?
Yes. Subject has the parkade, is that correct?
It appears they have underground parking.
So on your page 1, you show indoor parking 28 suites and outdoor 13 suites out of 50 suites.
Yes.
So they have 41 suites parking, only 82%. So would you agree that newer properties tend to have closer to 150%, have an average of 1.5 parking stalls per tenant rather than less than that?
I guess it would depend on the location. Maybe if it was outside of the downtown Osborne area, that might be the case. But because it's in the Osborne area, it appears to be, I guess, fine for the area.
So there's no basement suites, is that correct?
I'm not 100% sure, but I would say no.
So the basement area of 11,657 square feet is likely all parkade or all unfinished.
I believe so.
So if we excluded that on page 5, your gross floor area of 1173 per suite includes the parkade. Is that correct?
I don't believe it does.
You don't believe?
No.
So I would like you to do the calculations there because I come to 942 square feet excluding the parkade.
Yeah, no, I like the gross floor area listed is 58,000 on page 5 is 58,637, and on my front page the gross floor area is the same at 58,637, but it lists the basement area separately at 11,657 square feet. I don't believe that the gross floor area is normally I guess finished area.
Well, would you agree that the above grade is 58,000 minus 11,000?
No, I don't know. I don't believe that. They're recorded separately.
Gross floor areas for all, it's 4 stories. Plan
Yes.
area is 11,000. So 4 times 11,000 would be about 45,000 above grade, and 11,000 below grade. And that comes to your 58,000. Would you not agree with that?
I would have to look at things to make sure to see how we came up with the 58,000. But as far as I know, the 58,000 is finished area, not including the basement.
On page 5, when you say gross floor area, don't you not mean the gross floor area? The gross floor area has always meant the total area in the building, including basement.
I don't think so. Like I said, I would have to double check, but I believe that this gross floor area does not include the parquet and basement.
So looking at page 3 in the photo, do you not agree that the square footage for the upper stories are very close? They're almost the same, except maybe for that little front entrance. So if you have 11,000 on the main floor.
If you have something to show this, I would be happy to look at it, but that's kind of what I think right now.
Would you not agree that when your plan area is 11,657, 4-story, it should be 4 times 11,000 to get to your above grade?
Mr. DuPont, I think the question's been answered. You can certainly provide evidence to the contrary when you give your evidence. I think that Mr. Wong has said already that to the best of his knowledge, he's already answered the question. And if you can provide evidence to the contrary, we're prepared to accept it. But I think this question has been already asked and answered. So please go on.
Okay, sure. Page 5, the comparables. These are newer buildings, 2019, 2018, 2015, 2011. Do you know whether they have indoor parking also?
I do not know.
So the gross floor area that you show for those properties could include the parkades?
Yes, they could, or they could not. Yeah.
The subject suite mix is shown there, 34 1-bedroom and 16 2-bedrooms. So they have mostly a large percentage of 1-bedrooms. Your comparable number 1 is similar in the suite mix, but your comparable number 2 has twice as much 2-bedrooms than 1-bedroom. So would you say that the suite mix should be adjusted, the rent should be adjusted downward because of the suite mix?
Yeah, if you made that type of an adjustment, the rents would be a little bit lower, but yeah, it would be. Ideally, I'd like to get the 4 exact comparables, but when you look at these 4 comparables, they are not exactly the same, but I do believe that gives you a representation as to the accuracy of how market the model rents are at 1,459.
So would you agree also the comparables number 3 and 4 have a superior suite mix in the subject property?
3 and 4, they do have more 2-bedrooms. At the same time, one was built in 2015 and one was built in 2011. And so, like I said, if these buildings were built in 2021, as the subject property is, I believe that these rents would be substantially higher than they are.
For the subject property, did you check the actual rents of the subject property?
I did not.
That's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, any questions?
I do not.
Mr. Mann, any questions?
Just with respect to the comps that you provided on page 5, Mr. Wong, I'm just wondering geographically, the 255 Bell and the 180 comp number 1 Roslyn Road, are those the closest to each other geographically?
I would say so.
And they have the similar suite mix as well. When was comp number 1 constructed? I can't see that. Oh, 2019?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I have nothing further.
Okay, Mr. Wong, I noticed that the model didn't project any income for parking. Do you know if there is income for parking or not?
No, it doesn't. The model doesn't. It kind of lumps the parking and sort of other income into the average monthly rent.
Okay. Next question: when you give the gross floor area per unit, are you taking the total floor area and then just dividing the number of suites to get an average floor area?
Correct, and that's what we've done for the comparables as well.
That's fine. But if Mr. DuPont is correct that floor area is included, that does not comprise suites, then the units on your page number 5 would be shown as larger than they might actually be on average. Correct?
It could be the case, but it's more to give you a rough idea of what the how they compare. It's not necessarily meant to be an exact representation of the size of the suites, but it just sort of gives you an idea of the total floor area versus the number of units. It's just to see how comparable that the comparables might be.
Okay. That's my questions. Thank you.
Should I redirect?
If you have a question that arises from any question that's been asked by any of the panel members, certainly, but restrict yourself to that, please.
Yes, in regards to whether the square footage the assessor has is gross area or not. So I would like to go to the assessor's page 12. So you show the square footage for individual suite types.
Yes.
The 1 bedrooms are shown there, 615, 608, 665 square feet. And they have a preponderance of 1 bedrooms. So would you agree that based on those square footage that they rent out, it's likely not 1173 square feet?
It's definitely not. I know it's not, because that gross floor area includes common areas and hallways, so yeah, it's not going to add up to this.
Yeah, so the common area and hallways may be 10-15%, but should not be that big. So based on those suites, would you not agree that 1173 includes the basement?
I can't say.
That's all questions.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. DuPont, you can definitely proceed with your evidence now.
Okay, so the subject property, I noticed that the parking, the total parking, 41 stalls out of 50 stalls, 50 suites, is only 82%, so it's low parking. And I do have the square footages also that the assessor has, and I believe the gross floor area 1173 includes the parkade. Above grade is the assessor's own building details, which that they also publish. Their income approach is available online, which is part of my report. It says Basement area 11,657, main area 11,657, above grade area 46,980. And gross floor area 58,637. So their assessor's own evidence shows 46,980 as the above grade. Well, not own evidence, what they publish online, which is part of my report. Now we have the rent rolls after the reference date, and we've done some time adjusted rents, and it comes to 797,000 versus the assessor's 875,000. So we have much lower rents than what the assessor has. The other thing is that Chimichi rents that we have for is shown as part of our evidence, I believe, with the McPhillips, the 2020 rents for Shimichi for one bedroom for properties built after 2005 is 1317, and for two bedrooms is 1557. That's as of October 20. If you take a subject suite mix as of October 2020, also using Shimichi rents is 1394 per suite, and the assessor's rents that we saw on their pages is 1460 per suite, 1459 something, I believe. Yeah, 1449, 1459.40. So 1459 versus Shimichi at 1394 versus actual rents factored back at 1329. The assessor's expense ratio is 39.1. We have a slight disagreement with that. We use 40.5. That's from using the expense ratio that the city had for 5 properties, 145 Sage Creek at 40.8, 50 Bison 41.4, 15 Berwick 36, 1,006 Lira 43.8. The actually it's 4 properties. So the average of those 4 is 40.5. So there's a slight disagreement on the expense ratio. So it's not a major disagreement. So the disagreement mainly on the rent to start with, and then the cap rate, we use 5.25 cap rate versus the assessor at 4.8% cap rate. So our net income is 478,197. And once we divide by the cap rate of 5.25, our value is 9,109,000.
Okay.
The property, the advertising it has, it does say that they call it luxury suites, but that's nothing luxurious about that. It has the same finish as most newer apartment blocks. So the countertops are quartz for many, ensuite washer and dryer, which is the same as many the newer properties. And as per the assessor's own evidence, the suite sizes are shown. So the 1 bedrooms have only 1 bath, 608 square feet. It's just suite B, and then suite C was 665. So many newer properties have 2 baths in all the bedrooms. And certainly for 2 bedrooms, they tend to all have 2 baths. There's a few here and there that don't have the 2 baths, but most apartments would have for the 2 bedrooms for sure. Our subject has only 1 bath for the 1 bedrooms. And I believe their biggest suite that they show was 1,027 square feet. No, sorry, 1093. That would be my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wong, any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Mann, any questions?
Just with respect to the rental amounts, Mr. Dupont, you talked about the CMHC rents, and those are the average rents for 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom that you're referring?
Yes, for the category year built 2005 plus.
Okay. Do you have any comps or comparable rental rates from that particular area, right around the Osborne Village area?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, any questions?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so I guess, Mr. Dupont, this is a question I asked the assessor. Is there any further income derived from parking?
Oh, yes, there is. The parking that they had for 2003 factor back to 2021 is 39,992. So if you want my full, what I have for the income is that the rents, potential rents, I have 797,182. Vacancy, I have 4.2%, which is the same as the CMHC
Yeah.
vacancy.
No, yeah, I
and
asked, you answered the question, Mr. Dupont, you answered the question already, and thank you.
Yeah. So my EGI includes the parking. So I've allowed the parking in my income.
Okay, and I was just looking at the city's comparables, and I know that you indicated you didn't think they were reasonable, but I'm looking, for example, the property on Chevrier, which is not as good a location and shows its row housing, still derives significantly large rents.
So the fact is, row housing maybe should not be a comparable.
Maybe it shouldn't be, but I'm just saying that that's something that it's probably a bad comparison. It shows pretty high rents, doesn't it?
1583, yeah. So the gross floor area is shown 1060. It's only 12 suites.
Yeah.
They may not have any parkade at all. And if that's the case, the square footage would be a lot larger than the subject. So being only 12 suites, highly unlikely has a parkade. Nobody would build a parkade for.
No, I agree. There's no parkade there. I would agree there's no parkade.
Yeah. So
okay.
so therefore would have a bigger suite because they have no basement, no parkade area, and the row housing tends to have bigger suites to start with.
Okay. Now I'm going to then refer to Mr. Wong's comparable rents, and Mr. Mann pointed out, and I think Mr. Wong agreed, that the best comparison would be 180 Roslyn Road because of proximity and year built. Would you agree?
Yeah, probably 180 Roslyn. We don't know the full features that it has on this property.
For sure. And I did take into account the fact that you indicated that the property was, as far as square footage is concerned, was smaller. And taking into account and doing the calculation, instead of being 1,173, if I divided by 50, the square footage is left, it would still give each suite on average 939.60 square feet, which is not much smaller than the property on Roslyn Road. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, my calculation is 942 square feet, excluding the basement. So your calculations are also very close.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's 942 square feet, excluding the basement. Yeah, the parkade. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. You answered my questions, and you can now. Okay, so I think that completes this matter then, and we can go on with our next item on the agenda. I think at this point we should take a 10-minute break. And so it's now 10:47. We'll come back, let's say at 10:55. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So our next matter on the agenda pertains to the application at 584 Gertrude. Mr. Wong, you can proceed when you're ready.
Okay. I guess with this particular property, the subject property is 584 Gertrude. The file number is 23-282. The roll number is 120-217-87000. The roll year is 2024, and the assessed value is 1,741,000. I'd like to, I guess, ask that the burden of proof be placed on the applicant for non-cooperation. We requested information in for the 2020 mailer year, and they had requested an extension to submit the mailers, but we did not receive a response after that. On page 9. Is a copy of the letter that was sent out. It's dated April 15th, 2021. And you can see, like I said, on the top of page 9, it's just information with regards to, I guess, not having a certified letter. When the owner requested an extension for submitting their income and expense questionnaire, and the request is granted, our department does not send out a certified letter if we do not receive, I guess, a response to the mailer request. So the owner requested an extension, and the extension was granted, but they didn't respond. So that's why we don't have a certified mailing envelope for this property.
Okay.
And that would be, I guess, the information for our request for non-cooperation.
Okay. Mr. DuPont, if you have any questions, you can ask them. If you are prepared to accept the non-cooperation, then there's no need to ask questions.
I was muted, sorry. I don't accept, and saying that the assessor has no proof of requests.
Okay, so you can ask any questions you have, and we'll let you give your evidence after of why it should not be granted, and then we'll deliberate. So if you have any questions, you can ask them.
No questions.
No questions? Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
So you sent out the request asking for information. He came back saying that whoever came back saying they wanted the extension. You gave
they needed more time.
Yeah. So then you gave the extension, but you never received anything after that.
Correct.
Okay, I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Mann, any questions?
I'm just looking at the address, 584 Gertrude, and this is on your page 9, I think it is. 584 Gertrude Avenue Limited. 584 Gertrude is the property, but 900 444 St. Mary's Avenue. That's a law office?
I'm not sure if it's a law office, but that would be the mailing address that we have on file.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything further.
Okay, I guess my question stems from Mr. Mann. So the address 900 444 St. Mary, that would be the address that was given for service on
Yes.
the.
Yes.
Okay, and that would also be the address that the original mailer would have been sent to?
Yes.
And I guess you assume that if the original mailer was sent to that address and an extension was asked for, that it was received, because otherwise it would be asking for an extension. So
I would think that if they asked for the extension, that they probably received the request for information.
okay, that's my questions. Okay, Mr. DuPont, any evidence you wish to provide?
No, I have not redirected. Do you know when the first rent for this building was? Did it actually exist in 2020?
Did it actually? Yeah, it was. It appears that we have a year built of 2020.
Do you have the first year, first rent? Usually that's when the assessment starts.
I don't have that. I don't have that handy right now.
Do you have the original assessment, supplementary assessment? This building, it would show a date.
I don't.
That would be in your system, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I might be able to find it, but I don't have it. I don't have it in my evidence.
Okay.
But you know, question, I think right now you're supposed to be giving evidence, actually. You asked Mr. Wong before.
yeah. So I'm asking you another question. I'm sorry. I'm
Well, I
asking
know, but
another
right now
question.
you're asking questions and you're supposed to give your evidence and leave it at that. You've already asked questions. So I think you can go ask a couple. But really, it's time for you to give evidence now, Mr. DuPont, and we'll consider after we hear your evidence of whether to grant or not to.
Okay, I have a 2021 property assessment notice for this property. The assessment was hard to read, 321,000. So it was assessed for land only for 2021. Yeah, 321. That's what it was assessed. I don't have the supplementary assessment, but the assessment was in fact and in 2020 it was it was still assessed as land as well as 2021. And really, yeah, that's all the evidence I'm going to give in that regards.
Okay. Mr. Wong, any questions?
No questions.
Ms. Knight, any questions?
So you're saying that you only got a land assessment in 2020 and 2021 for 321,000. You never received the letter that came out asking for your information for the assessment.
Well, I'm not the owner.
So the
I-
owner never let you know that he got that letter and asked for the extension.
No, I was not aware of that.
Were you looking after this property at the time of April 15th, 2021?
We have a file for 2020. There's no valuation on it because it was a land assessment for 2021. So our no appeal was recommended. So we don't have a file of the value as of 2021. No.
And when was the first rent received?
I have evidence from them. I believe I'm just looking at it now. The first rent they show in the income statements they gave to me was January 2021.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mann, any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. DuPont, I guess the only question I have is if there was no information to provide at the time, why would they have asked for an extension? Why would they just indicate that we have no information to provide because the building's too new and we haven't formulated enough information to be able to give you anything other than, or just return the sheets indicating that information wasn't yet available?
Well, they could have done that, and they could have been very busy and said, well, we didn't have time, and then they realized that it did not exist in 2020, and therefore there was no questionnaire to be given. Nevertheless, the fact is that I have their financial statements, and it shows 12 months. Sorry, it shows the months December 2020 is zero income, It's for 11 months ending April 30th, 2021. I guess that was their year end that they had. And so they show zero income for all the prior years and no income for December 2020 and income starting January 2021.
Okay, so based on that, they could have actually provided information and multiplied by 4 because they did have 3 months by April the 1st. They could have.
It was a 2020 questionnaire, not a 21 questionnaire.
Okay.
I just want to say it's like the adjustments for adding the improvement onto the property. It was sent out in August of 2000, or sorry, it was effective in August of 2020, and it was sent out probably in November or December of 2020.
You say probably, so you don't have it in front of you?
I don't have it in front of me, but like I say probably because like the entry was made in our end, in our system in November 25th, but it might take a week or 2 to get the notice out. But that's what we have.
Okay, well, I think we have the information we need to make a decision. So we're going to adjourn in camera to make a decision, and we'll let you know what it is in a short while. Okay, so we've discussed this matter, and we've come to the conclusion that because a request was requested, that it was incumbent upon the applicant at that point to provide financial information, even if it was nothing, but they had to respond and didn't, and therefore we're imposing the penalty. And on that basis, Mr. Dupont, I think the whole application now becomes mute, because even if we find that there should be a decrease, it won't be granted this year. And next year's a new assessment year. So unless you want to appeal this ruling of ours, I don't know if there's any point in really going on with the hearing at this point, because as I said, even if you're successful, it won't take effect. And next year's a new assessment year. So I'm not sure what you want to do. Is Mr. Dupont there?
He is, yes.
Is it muted?
Okay.
I didn't know I had muted myself. I guess it was done by the board. I don't want to withdraw at this point in time. So if the board wants to give the penalty, so be it. I could just say I'm mainly disputing the vacancy on this property. Not vacancy, cap rate.
Okay, and certainly you can proceed. And so it's up to you to go first then, because we made the findings. So the burden shifts to you, Mr. Dupont.
Yeah, so I don't dispute the rents. I dispute the expense ratio, a slight difference. I use 40.5. I use 5.25 cap rate instead of the assessor 3.85. So my value is 1,232,000, which is 500,000 less than the assessor.
What's your NOI?
64,668.
And you're using a 5.25 cap rate?
5.25 cap rate. So the biggest part is on the cap rate, because the assessor has a very low cap rate, 3.85.
Sorry, what was the NOI again?
64,668.
Okay, and the amount you said you're requesting is 1,232,000.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions, Wong?
No questions.
Ms. Knight, any questions?
No, sir.
Mr. Mann, any questions?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I don't have any questions, so thank you. So Mr. Wong, you can proceed.
The subject property is 584 Gertrude. The file number is 23-282. The roll number is 120-217-87000. The roll year is 2024, and the assessed value is $1,741,000. This is a residential apartment that's 3 stories high. It was built in 2020 and has 6 suites with 6 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $1,575 to get a potential income of $113,000. We used a 4.2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $108,000. And we used a 38% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $67,000. Capped at 3.85%, we have an estimated market value of $1,741,000. Because we didn't have any information to go off of, we are going to the market to support our value. On page 5 are some rent comparables, showing that the rent that's been applied is in line with the market and appears it is supported by the market. And on the bottom of page 5 are some expense comparables that range from 33 to 42%, which I believe supports the model's expense ratio at 38%. And on page 6 is information on how we derived our cap rates, and on page 7 is some information, some cap rate sales information. So we have the sale of 700 St. Mary's and 1745 Henderson, which I believe supports the model's 3.85% cap rate. Page 14 is some information, some pictures of the interior of the subject property, along with some information on the property itself. Yeah. This is a very new property, and like I said before, the properties that have the highest that command the highest rents right now are the newest properties, and so this definitely falls into that category. Having said that, the model rents are supported by the market as well as the expenses, and the model cap rate is also supported by the market. So I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $1,741,000.
Thank you. Mr. DuPont, any questions?
Yes, page 6, your cap rate. Your 20th percentile for low rise, or I guess for all property, is 4.8 to 5.6. So your cap rate is below your own 20th percentile. So how come it's like 1% lower?
It's in the lowest 20th percentile. Yes, it is. Based off of my observation, the properties that are smaller, like this particular 6-unit property, are typically more attainable for a larger pool of investors. And so I believe that's why we found that the cap rates for smaller properties tend to be lower. So this property is a smaller property, and I believe that's why the cap rate is lower than what we've seen in some of the other properties.
So you're basically saying that the properties with 6 suites or around that are giving a low cap rate, mainly due to the fact that it has a smaller amount of suites. Do you have any evidence to that effect, though, with this hearing?
I do not.
Now that page 6, the Collier, CBRE, and Cushman, their cap rate starts at low rise 5 to 6 for Colliers, and for Cushman it's also 5 to 5.75, and CBRE 5.25 to 5.75. So would you agree that they don't have any cap rates below the 5 or 5.25, regardless of size?
I can't say, because they might have other sales that are like that might be what their average is, but they might have some sales that are in the lower end of the range. So I can't say.
So now you're page 7. Some 100 St. Mary's 3.6% cap rate is very low, but it's built 1961. So would you agree that based on its age, it's not comparable whatsoever?
Based on its age, it is not the best comparable.
Would you agree that you do not have any documented data for the sale of 1745 Henderson because it was a private share sale?
I believe it is.
Excuse me. You asked this question before, and we've already got an answer. So we know the evidence, and we indicated to you already, Mr. DuPont, that any questions you asked on one item will be carried forward. So we get the question again, and you're again stipulating it. So I don't think.
Okay, I agree. I'm just telling the board that the sale is.
Thanks for reminding us.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all the questions I have on the cap rate then.
Thank you. Mr. Mann, any questions?
Oh, I don't, thank you.
Ms. Knight, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Wong, I guess I do have a question. I think that it appears that there's no evidence here whatsoever to establish a 3.85 cap rate. I'm looking at the table, and at 20%, it would start at 4.8. And as Mr. DuPont indicated to you, that 3.5 is almost a point lower than the 20 percentile. How did the model choose the 3.85 cap rate?
Yeah, like I said, the cap rate chosen by the model is likely based off of the size of the building. If there was this exact same building, but it was 100 units, I think the cap rate would be more along the lines of maybe 4.8%. But in this particular case, it is a 6-unit building, and like what we found is that the smaller buildings that have sold have transacted at a lower cap rate. With regards to, say, I agree that this the cap rate at 3.85% is definitely on the lower end of the range, but it's not that far out of line with, say, 1745 Henderson, and it's also not that far out of line with some of the cap rates that I've seen in multiple appraisals. And so, I mean, it is low, but it's not completely out of line in my view.
Okay. Thank you. Leave that with us then, and we'll go on then to agenda item number 5, which is 698 Furby Street. And when you're ready, Mr. Wong, you can proceed.
The subject property is 698 Furby. The file number is 23-392. The roll number is 130-504-14000. The roll year is 2024, and the assessed value is $1,057,000. This is a residential apartment that's 2 stories high. It's built in 1958. We have an effective year built in 1968 due to some renovations. It's comprised of 16 suites with 6 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. which is located very close to the Health Science Center. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $700 to get a potential income of $134,000. We use a 3.2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $130,000. And we used a 55% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $58,000. Capped at 5.5%, we have an estimated market value of $1,057,000. On page 5 are some rent comparables that show that the rents that we've used are in line with what's in the market. On page 6 is a summary of the income and expenses from the owner. The most recent expenses that a mailer that we have is from 2020 and 2018. We are missing their 2019 mailer. But to stabilize the property, the net operating income, we use their 2020 income of $129,000, and we average their expenses from 2018 and 2020 at $60,000, stabilizing their NOI at $68,000. I believe this supports is the model's NOI at $58,000, and it may support a value that is a little bit higher than what we've estimated. On page 7 is information on how we derived our cap rates, and on page 8 are some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. Page 10 and 11 and 12 are the income statements supplied by the owner. And on page 13 are some interior pictures from an inspection in 2018. So you can see that there was some renovation work done to the units, as well as the electrical and the hot water system. So when you look at the actual performance of the property, it supports their actual NOI supports the model NOI, and the model cap rate is supported by the market sales. So I ask you to maintain the assessed value at $1,057,000.
Okay, thank you. Mr. DuPont, any questions?
So you say it was renovated for electricity and what else?
It looks like the suites were renovated and electrical.
Do you have the amount and when it happened?
The inspection was in 2018, and I believe it happened, I guess, prior to that. But there are some pictures on page 13 with regards to their electrical and hot water.
So the hot water tanks appears new?
Yes.
No. Would you agree that most of the time you do not change the effective age of a property when they change hot water tanks?
Well, they also renovated the suites as well.
What renovations do you see there?
I mean, you can look at the cabinets in the bathroom. They wouldn't be original to 1958.
But would you say that's still typical for most properties built in 1958?
I would say this property would garner more income as compared to a property that didn't have upgrades.
On your page 6, you do some calculations from the rent roll. They come to 68,000 stabilized NOI, and your model is 58,000. So are you using the 58,000? That's what you're telling the board to use?
Yes, I'm just saying that when you stabilize their operating income, it could support a higher value than what the model is estimated.
That's all questions I have.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, any questions?
No, sir.
Mr. Mann, any questions?
Just with respect to the cap rate of 5.5%, does the model take into account the location of the building, or is that a factor that is adjusted in your experience by the cap rate? Because I don't think this is a very good location.
It could be a challenging location from the standpoint of maybe the area. It could be a reasonable location relative to say the HSC. The cap rate is, we do take into consideration the location for in terms of the cap rate. I guess but the only location that might generate a higher cap rate right now would be in the Selkirk and like Selkirk Avenue and Salter Street area. But with regards to this particular area, I believe that the cap rates are the same as at the other areas in Winnipeg, aside from Selkirk and Salter Avenue or Selkirk Street, or sort of Salter Street, sorry.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
And I don't have any questions, so thank you. So, Mr. DuPont, you can proceed.
Okay. So the property itself, if you look at the assessor's photo, they have one air conditioning unit on the one side, none in the front. So we have photos from all sides. We counted 5 air conditioners out of the 16 suites. We also inspected, no, I'll go to my appendix and tell you when that was. So Faracats from our department, from Altus, inspected on September 13, 2023. Provided photos. The kitchens are extremely small. The basement area has the concrete receiving, the stuff all over the place is broken. Painting is terrible. The steps are also terrible. The corridors, it's still plaster corridors, paint coming off, chips. The bathrooms shows there is some newer tiles, so they did put some newer tiles in the bathroom. They have some vinyl plank. They have, but the vinyl planks, they don't match properly. There's gaps in between the planks, and a few of the boards are broken. So the property has had some work done, but it's in terrible condition. So the financial statements we had were erratic. Some years at discount, some did not. Some years at high vacancy, some did not. So I think some years the caretaker was showing the vacancy, and some years had no caretaking costs, etc. So the statement that Kem redid is that the statements are too erratic to be reliable. So therefore, I agree with the assessor's net operating income, 58,127. I applied a cap rate of 6%. So my value is 969,000. So it's a cap rate argument only. Parking, this only is 56%. which is they have 9 parking out of 16 suites. The suite mix is inferior. They have 15 bachelors, 1 2-bedroom. So that makes it an inferior property for cap rate also due to that. There's no landlord air conditioning. The air conditioning in the windows belong to the tenants. So that's why some windows will have the AC, some do not, because the tenant have to provide their own AC. Naturally, when they leave, they can take their air conditioning also. So the property does not have air conditioning. So the reason we give a higher cap rate, so our cap rate for that age group, according to cap rate study, is 5.5%. So that we would agree with the assessor's cap rate for this type of property. But you going site specific, we have factors to make give it a cap rate premium of 0.5%. The parking is only 56%. Suite sizes are small. Suite mix, 94% bachelors. Air conditioning they don't have, and location, it's inferior. It's in the West End, Visitor Corner of Cumberland. The houses with low assessments. Now, part of my evidence, I have photos in the area. And the assessments in the area, so the right sizes.
Mr. Dwell, we don't compare assessments.
No, I'm not saying we should use the assessment of the house next door to establish the value of the subject. I'm saying that's the quality of the properties next door. So south of the property is a house assessed at 143,000. That gives you the neighborhood. Next to that is 108,000. So the house is assessed at 108,000. So all the houses in the area are very low, very old. The property next to it, built 1905, 694 Furby, built 1901. No air conditioning for both of them, 2-story, 2.5 stories. So that goes to the area of the property. So sure, nearby we have the health science center, but the actual neighborhood you would live in would be a low price neighborhood. So that most people would consider location near that, the location that it has, the neighborhood, and the fact that they're besides old houses are very low assessments. And so that would be my submission.
Thank you. Mr. Wong, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Mann, any questions?
Yes, sorry, just with respect to the income and expense mailer that was filed by the property owners on this. Was it your submission that the income and expense mailers filed by the property owners were of little to no use because they were unreliable?
They were erratic. What they characterize, I think the caretaker was shown one way in 2018 and another way in 2019, another way in 2020. So the 2020 vacancy is 10,000. 2018 is 2,000. But there's a discount in 2018, no discount in 2020. Caretaking costs is absolutely none for 2020 and 3,500 for 2018. Taxes were very low in 2018, higher in 2020. So I believe they categorized things wrongly, to the point that it's was very difficult for me to try to to stabilize properly. And therefore I agree with the assessor's NOI.
Okay, because I'm just looking at the number of suites, which seems accurate. 15 one-bedroom, 15 bachelor, 1 2-bedroom. The monthly rent, the gross monthly rent that they have here is noted at 141,900, and then additional parking amounts for a total annual income of 146,520 as I guess the gross potential rent. You're saying that's unreliable or can't be relied on?
Oh yeah, yeah. The 146 includes the parking.
Right.
The page 10 of the assessor's brief. This the income received 128,745.
Mhm.
Yeah, and vacancy 10,000. So that the 120,000 is less than the assessor showing that 130,000. Anyway, I did not rely on that. I did a spreadsheet and then I saw discrepancies all over the place, and I defaulted to the assessor's NOI.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything further.
Thank you. Ms. Lane, any questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
And I am as well. Thank you. So that takes us then to the last matter on the agenda today, which is the property at 530 River Avenue. Mr. Wong, when you're ready, please.
Okay, the subject property is 530 River Avenue. The file number is 23-284. The roll number is 120-321-67500. The roll year is 2024, and the assessed value is $5,199,000. This is a residential apartment that's 4 stories high. It's built in 2020. It has 20 suites with 12 indoor parking stalls and 7 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. It's another one that's located in Osborne Village. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $1,491 to get a potential income of $357,000. We use a 4.2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $342,000. And we use a 38% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $210,000. Capped at 4.05%, we have an estimated market value of $5,199,000. On page 5 are some rent and expense comparables. This is a new property, and we didn't have any income and expense information to rely on, so we'll be relying on the market. So on the top of my page 5 are some rent comparables showing that the rents that we've applied are in line with what's in the market. And on the bottom of page 5 are some expense comparables that range from 33 to 42%, and which supports the model's expense ratio at 38%. Page 6 is information on how we derived our cap rates. And on page 7 are some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. The cap rate, the sales of 2390 McPhillips and 1745 Henderson at 4.79 and 4.28% are a little bit higher than what we've the model has applied, but I believe it is reasonably close at 4.05%. On page 9 is some information on the subject property. You can see that they call it upscale living in the heart of Osborne Village. The property is located in one of Winnipeg's most popular neighborhoods. page 10 are some pictures of some of the units that are available for rent. They range from about 550 square feet to about 900 square feet. And on page 11 are some interior pictures of the subject property. In my view, they're probably a little bit more upscale as compared to your normal apartment building. And on page 12 are a few more pictures. The subject property is more of an upscale apartment in Osborne Village, one of Winnipeg's most popular neighborhoods. Typically, the newer apartments, like the brand new apartments, are the ones that are commanding the highest rents. And so I believe that the rents that we've applied, that the model is applied, is fair and supported by the market. I believe that the cap rate is a little bit on the low side, but I do believe that it is supported by some of the cap rate sales that we have. So I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $5,199,000.
Thank you. Mr. DuPont, any questions?
You said it's upscale property, so can you describe the features on page 5 compared to the 4 rent comparables that you have there as to whether this subject is similar or superior to those?
Well, I guess yeah, you can see it has like a quartz countertops and underground parking. And you can see on page 11 that the kitchen and the bathroom finishes, in my view, are above average compared to your typical apartment. And on page 12, there's you can see the exterior, which it seems like there's more design elements as compared to your typical vinyl siding apartment building. So I believe this does fall into the upscale category, or nicer than average in terms of newer apartment buildings.
Now, the subject has 19 parking for 20 suites. So would you agree that's inferior to most comparables?
I would say that there are some apartments that have lower parking counts, and there are some that have more. But like I said, considering that it's in the Osborne area, where I think people walking is a little bit more common, I think it seems reasonable. And even if it wasn't reasonable, I'm not sure if it would affect the overall value very much in terms of a few parking stalls.
Would you agree that some potential tenants would not rent at all unless they have 2 parking spots available? So that's a critical factor in deciding whether to stay somewhere or not.
That could be a critical factor for some. It could also be a non-factor for others, and especially people who are looking to live in the Osborne area.
Your 4 comparables are in the Osborne area?
Yes.
And 570 Stradbrook, the last one, would you agree that it has 47 stalls to the 41 suites that have more stalls on that particular property?
I'm not sure.
And would you agree that that particular property also has a better suite mix than the subject?
I wouldn't say there. I mean, with regards to better suite mix, I don't know if there is I don't know if you can define that. But from what I've seen in terms of new construction, there could be buildings that have 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, and there's some that have like 1, 2s, and 3s, and that's the mix could vary. And so I'm not sure if you can define a superior suite mix or not, considering that developers who have a lot of expertise and they're putting a lot of time and money into it, that I couldn't see them building something that is not, I guess, ideal for their generating income.
I think your answer would refer to maybe cap rate. But for comparison of rents, 570 Stradbroke has 6 3-bedroom units and the subject has not. And they have a large amount of 2 bedrooms. So the average rent that it has would be due to the fact that it has more 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms in the subject property. So would you agree that the rents have to be adjusted downward for that comparable?
That could be
the subject.
It's also the rents at 570 Stradbroke are also $300 more than what the model is applied. So I do believe that it is pretty close if you were to take that into consideration.
Now the subject has part underground parking. So the gross floor area 1,200 that you have is based on the total GFA, including the parking lot. Is that correct?
I was looking at the previous property, and it did, that gross floor area did include the parkade, and so I guess potentially, like if it's heated space, it's included, and so it could be included.
So do you know if any of your 4 comparables have indoor parkade there in their gross floor area or not?
I do not know.
Now the cap rate subject is 4.05.
Yes.
And so the cap rate percentile is shown on page 6. So it's 4.8. You start at the 20th percentile. So this would be, let's say, our low rise A, 4.8. It's 4.8 to 5.6. And the 3 brokerage firms, Colliers, CBRE, and Cushman, start at 5. Actually, CBRE start at 5.25. So would you agree that your cap rate 405 is much lower than your own evidence, 4.8, and the Colliers or brokerage firms?
Yeah, it is lower than the other brokerages, and it is in the lowest 20th percentile. So it is in the lowest 20th percentile in terms of the cap rates that we've applied for the properties in Winnipeg. But there are many properties that do fall into the 4.8 and 5.6, but this is not one of them.
And the subject property has 20 suites, whereas the previous hearing it was only 6 suites. So would you have applied a premium for the fact that it had less number of suites, or do you know why?
Yeah, I was going to say that could explain why, like the property that had the 3.8 cap rate was a 6 unit, and this one has 20 units. It could explain why the cap rate is lower. Like the 20 units is a little bit lower. It's a little bit more, like I said, maybe a larger pool of investors might be able to invest in a 20 unit building as compared to a 100 unit building. And so that could be the reason why this cap rate is a little bit lower than some of the others that we've seen.
That's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, any questions?
I do not, thank you.
Mr. Mann, any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
And I don't either. Thank you. Mr. DuPont, you can proceed.
I did send separately an income approach on 530 River. So my original report was that the value was to be determined because I did not have the assessment, city assessment values. I didn't have the assessment notice and the user ID. And therefore what I sent to the board was after the deadline, but it's usually accepted because where I'm just showing how I'm arriving at my value. I'm not introducing new evidence. So I ask that be allowed as evidence, the income approach that I sent separately to the board.
Okay, well, you call it a rebuttal, and if you're rebutting completely, if it does just rebut the evidence, we'll accept it, and we're looking at it now. It's available to us.
I did file two reports after the exchange date, which is the rebuttal, which is on the rents, and
Yeah, I've got the
yeah, okay, yeah, we can go to rebuttal, and then so we show some of the comparables they have. The subject suite size is smaller than these comparables, and that they have one bat. A lot of the comparables have two bats, etc. So I'm not going to put too much time on this because in the end I agree with the assessor's rents. But I sent a separate income approach, which is usually accepted when we're just determining later at the board what our income approach would be. I did not have the information available at the time as I did the report.
Mr. Chair, if I may interject, Mr. DuPont, that is what we accepted as rebuttal as it came after the exchange of evidence.
Okay. In any event, you know what? If you agree with the NOI, I don't know what the issue is. If you accept the city's NOI and it's a cap rate argument, it's a moot point anyway, Mr. DuPont.
EGI is the same. I agree with their rents. The expense ratio I use is 40.5% instead of 38.59. So my NOI is 203,992. So I'm about 6,000 less than the assessor. So it's not a big difference. My big difference is in the cap rate. I use 5.25 versus the assessor 4.05. So my value is 3,886,000.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
And part of your cap rate consideration is that it has low parking, 95%, so that going forward, that is going to affect the income stream for years to come. So it's got low parking for newer properties, which would normally have closer to 150%. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Wong?
Just one with regards to, do you have any support for that might quantify how much like lower parking stall counts might affect the value?
No, it's just a factor. It's a negative factor, and so we take it into consideration. It's a judgment call.
That's all my questions.
Okay. Ms. Knight, any questions?
No, sir.
Mr. Mann, any questions?
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay. Mr. DuPont, is there any other income in your NOI? We don't know how you arrived at it because you don't have it, but is there parking income in there over and above the suite rental income?
No, I just use the assessor's income, EGI.
And then you reduce it. So there might be parking income that you're not accounting for then.
I'm saying I'm accounting for it because I'm not disputing the assessor's effective gross income.
Well, you are though, because you've got a slightly lower income because you have a higher expense ratio. So if you like the expense ratio that the model produces, then I think that it's really unfair to pick and choose, and then you should show the exact income and not just adhere to a lower income that the model might produce. Like you can't have it both ways, can you?
Sure, I can dispute the income and I can dispute the expenses. I don't see why I can only dispute one or both or zero. The assessor has used on 4 properties 40.5%, 145 Sage Creek, 40.8, 50 Bison, 41.4, 15 Berwick, 36, which is low, and 106 Lyra, 43.8. They're all built 2020. Well, one is built 2016, they're built 2021. So they're newer properties, and the assessor has using a lower expense ratio than they do for other properties. So it's a separate issue from the income.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's my questions. So we've now, does anybody want to make a final summation before we close this hearing?
I'm good.
Mr. Dupont?
I'm good also. Thank you.
Okay, so we've now heard all items on the agenda today, so we're going to close this hearing. We will deliberate and render our decisions, which you will receive in due course. Thank you very much for your participation.